Hi everyone, it's Jen and I'm going to show you how to do a summary query. It's really important that you have already entered your calculated fields in the water bill table. So if you haven't done that part, make sure you go back and do that because we're going to use those fields in this summary query. So make sure that those are fixed up. Now, we're going to head over and we're going to create a different type of query. We're going to click on Create. It's going to start off normal. We're going to click on Query Design. We're going to go ahead and add the water bills table, just the water bills table, and close. And I'm going to go ahead and widen that out here. And I'm going to name this Statistics. Okay, now it's named Statistics. All right, so I'd like to add in some fields from my water bills table. Because this is going to be a summary query, we're actually going to do all sorts of fun stuff with these fields. So the first thing I'm going to add is billing date. Double click. Now, I want to add billing date again because I'm going to use this billing date and then I'm going to do something with this next field of billing date. So go ahead and double click on that. Add that in. And now I'm going to add in usage, amount paid, amount due, and balance due. And save because I'm meticulous like that. Now that I've added in my fields, I'm going to do something a little bit tricky. Make sure that this is open, your Design tab, and over here in the Show Hide group, you're going to click on this Totals button. And keep an eye out down here because this is going to open up a new row in your fields at the bottom. I'll go ahead and click on it. And it should be grayed out. If you've double clicked on accident and it's not grayed out, then your group by and total row will not show. And just as another hint, you can also widen this or bring it up closer if that helps you see it better. So each item has a total row now, and it says group by. And what we want to do is decide what we're going to group these by. So we're just going to leave the first billing date as group by because we're just going to leave it as is. The next billing date, we're going to go in here and open up the menu and we're going to group this by count. So if we can imagine this in our heads, that this is going to be a list of the dates, and then it's going to bunch them up and count up for each date. Okay, so it'll pile up all the dates and then count how many bills are on each date. Then for each of those dates, with that collection of bills, we want the average usage of water. So we're going to go ahead and select AVG, which stands for average. Then we want to know the total sum paid. So we're going to select sum here. And for the amount due, we also want to select sum. And for the balance due, we're going to select sum. So this will add all those up for us. The next part is going to be a bit tricky, so hold on to your hats here. We want to make sure that it's only adding up the balances that actually have underpayments. So in other words, they haven't paid their bills or they paid less. So again, we're going to add in our greater than symbol and 0. That way, it's not going to subtract anybody who owes money. It's just going to be a total of what is still due. Next, we're going to make our own field, and we haven't done this yet in a query where we usually just add in fields and call it a day. Now we're going to go ahead and make a calculated field in the query. And we can move over this way. It does not make your fields disappear. You can scroll here too. And also you can widen and make this wider so you can see what's going on. And you can actually type a field in here. If you'd like to add a name to a field that has a calculation in a query, you can type in that name. So I'm going to type in late fees and a colon. So that means that's my field name. And then I'm going to put in the formula for this. I'm going to take the balance due, whatever's here, and I'm going to put my little brackets. Oops. Balance due. And my close brackets, and just make sure that there's no spelling errors. And I'm going to put my asterisks for multiplication. And if they have a late fee, they have to pay 25% of that balance. So we're going to go ahead and put 0.25. And then we want it to take all those balances and all those late fees and sum those up. So we're going to go here and do sum. So that we'll get a sum of the late fees. All right, here's my favorite part. And it's not going to look pretty this first time because we're going to make some corrections soon. So let's hit run. Run! Okay, so some parts of this worked. Billing dates are all piled up here. The count of the bills are pretty good. We can't see the whole field name. It says count of billing date. And then we have these fields where the numbers are super long and we can't even see them. So I'm going to double click to resize them. And so our average use has these crazy decimals, and the sum of the amount due is not formatted as currency, and some of the balance is formatted as currency, so that's looking a little bit better. And then our late fees, again, are not formatted as currency. So what we're going to do is save this because you've done the first part, and the next part we're going to go in and you're going to see how to reformat those and change the product.